Imagine standing on the shores of Ipanema. The sun blazes, the samba rhythms pulse through the air. Everywhere you look, the human body isn't just celebrated, it's sculpted, perfected, displayed like living art. On the beaches of Brazil, beauty feels effortless. It's stitched into the music, the celebrations, the way people move through the world. But behind that effortless glow lies something deeper and far more complicated. In Brazil, beauty isn't just admired, it's expected, it's institutionalized, and for millions it's a passport to opportunity or a barrier that locks them out. Each year, the Brazilian government subsidizes approximately 500,000 cosmetic surgeries, not just reconstructive operations, but purely aesthetic procedures. Nose jobs, breast implants, liposuction, offered in public hospitals alongside cancer treatments and emergency care. In no other country is the phrase, "the right to beauty," taken so literally. This video will explore how Brazil became one of the most plastic surgery-obsessed societies in the world. We'll look at the cultural roots, the political choices, and the personal stories behind a system where chasing perfection isn't just normalized, it's publicly funded. Imagine you're born in Brazil in the early 1900s. Before you speak, before you work, before you choose your dreams, the world has already chosen something for you. What your face means. The closer your features were to Europe, lighter skin, thin nose, straight hair, the more beautiful you were considered. And with that beauty came opportunity, better jobs, better treatment, better lives. But where did this idea come from? To understand Brazil's obsession with beauty, we have to go back. Not to the catwalks or beach bodies, but to something far darker, eugenics. In the early 20th century, a group of Brazilian intellectuals believed beauty was not just aesthetic, it was political. They argued that by improving the looks of the population, they could improve the nation itself. Magazines pushed skin-lightening creams.
Embedded in the idea of whitening, of course, is the idea that blackness are inferior and that you're being European and white are certainly superior.
Schools discouraged Afro hairstyles, and one chilling phrase echoed through the culture: white women for marriage, mulattas for sex, black women for work. These weren't fringe beliefs. They shaped policy, education, and public health. Beauty became synonymous with whiteness and a proxy for social value. Eventually, this ideology entered medicine. Surgeons began reshaping noses, narrowing jaws, straightening hairlines, not just to fix defects, but to move people up the social ladder. In this system, beauty wasn't skin deep. It was capital, a kind of passport. Where you worked, who you dated, how far you could rise, all of it could hinge on how closely your body aligned with an imported ideal. And into this world, a world that measured worth by symmetry and skin tone, stepped a young surgeon with a radical idea. In 1961, a circus tent caught fire in Niterói, Brazil. Over 500 people died. Hundreds more were burned beyond recognition. A young surgeon named Ivo Pitanguy was called to the scene. For days, he operated non-stop, grafting skin, reconstructing faces, trying to restore what the fire had stolen. But when the medical crisis ended, something stayed with him. He noticed how survivors, even after healing physically, remained broken. They avoided mirrors. They avoided people. Some refused to leave their homes. It was then Pitanguy realized, scars on the outside can become prisons on the inside. From that moment, he began to see beauty differently, not as vanity, but as a kind of medicine. To Pitanguy, a disfigured nose could be just as life-limiting as a broken leg, and restoring someone's appearance wasn't just cosmetic, it was therapeutic. He started at a quiet revolution. At a time when plastic surgery was seen as a luxury for the rich, Pitanguy made a radical claim: the poor have the right to be beautiful too. And remarkably, the government listened. Pitanguy persuaded Brazil's president, Juscelino Kubitschek, to fund cosmetic procedures in public hospitals. For the first time, surgeries like nose jobs and facelifts, purely aesthetic procedures, were performed at no cost to low-income Brazilians, not as indulgence, not as vanity, but as healthcare. At his clinic in Rio, Pitanguy trained a generation of surgeons, not just in technique, but in his philosophy. And that philosophy didn't stay in the operating room. It spread. Over time, it seeped into hospitals, policy, public health. Until one day, the government wasn't just agreeing with Pitanguy, it was scaling his vision nationwide. Today, that vision is written into law. Brazil's public healthcare system, the Sistema Único de Saúde, doesn't just cover reconstructive surgeries. It offers aesthetic procedures like tummy tucks, breast implants, Botox, even abdominal etching, not in private clinics but in public hospitals funded by taxpayer money, all under the banner of public health. In cities like São Paulo and Rio, over 90% of plastic surgeries performed in public clinics are purely aesthetic. The official justification? That beauty improves mental health, that it helps people integrate into society, that feeling attractive is a form of wellness. Critics see it differently. They point to long wait lists for cancer treatments, shortages of ICU beds, and a healthcare system strained at every level. They ask, how can we justify liposuction when people are dying waiting for dialysis? And yet, the tummy tucks continue. Supporters push back with a provocative idea. A wrinkle, they say, can be as psychologically damaging as a tumor. In a country built on inequality, cosmetic surgery is framed as a tool for justice. If the wealthy can buy beauty, why shouldn't the poor have access too? It sounds like satire, but it's not. It's policy. And increasingly, men are joining the race. In 2024, they made up 33% of all cosmetic surgeries in Brazil. Not just hair transplants, but abdominal etching, jawline contouring, pectoral implants. Sculpt the man within, say the ads. But even here, where beauty is declared a right, not all surgeries are equal. Brazil's healthcare system is deeply divided. Wealthier Brazilians go to private clinics, sleek, state-of-the-art facilities staffed by the best surgeons in the country. The poor rely on public hospitals, where procedures are often performed by medical trainees under supervision. It's a system that offers opportunity, but sometimes at a cost. Renata, a 32-year-old from the outskirts of São Paulo, underwent a breast lift at a public hospital. A student surgeon made an error. What followed was months of infection, scarring, and permanent disfigurement. I just wanted to feel pretty again, she said. Now I'm afraid to look in the mirror. Legal recourse is rare. Public patients often can't afford lawyers, follow-up specialists, or the tests required to prove a mistake. So instead of seeking justice, many return to the same system, hoping the next procedure goes better than the last. Meanwhile, Brazil's reputation for surgical excellence has made it a hotspot for medical tourism. Patients fly in from the US, Europe, and beyond, seeking high-quality work at a fraction of the price. The result is a paradox, a system that promises beauty for the poor, but increasingly serves the rich and foreigners. But not everyone accepts the tyranny of the mirror. In recent years, powerful counter-movements have risen. Afro-Brazilian activists, feminist groups, plus-size models, they are challenging the old ideals. Icons like singer Isa and actress Thais Araújo proudly flaunt their natural hair, darker skin, and non-Eurocentric beauty. Social media floods with hashtags like #BelezaReal and #CorpoLivre, rejecting surgical conformity. Surveys show younger Brazilians increasingly value diversity over perfection. The plus-size fashion market is booming. Brands are finally featuring older women, non-binary models, people with disabilities. One major Brazilian department store recently ran a campaign called "Skin is Not a Filter," featuring unretouched models of every shape and shade. It was one of the most shared brand campaigns of the year. TikTok and Instagram are rising with body-neutral influencers who preach wellness over waist size. They talk about boundaries, self-acceptance, and building self-worth beyond the mirror. Is this a cultural shift or just a ripple on the surface? It's too soon to tell, but for the first time in decades, a different vision of beauty is fighting for air. Brazil's obsession with beauty is complicated. It liberates and it imprisons. It uplifts and it burdens. The right to beauty is a radical dream, that dignity should not belong only to the rich. But when perfection is defined by narrow, racialized, and impossible standards, when bodies are sacrificed at the altar of the mirror, we have to ask, what are we chasing? And what are we losing along the way? In Brazil, beauty is more than aesthetic. It's a currency, a language, a dream. But dreams can slip into obsessions, and obsessions, unchecked, can destroy. As Brazil's beauty culture collides with movements for authenticity, self-acceptance, and racial justice, perhaps the next great transformation will not happen in the operating room, but in the mind. Brazil has always been a country that reinvents itself through its people. If the beauty ideal evolves, it will be because new voices are rising, demanding that beauty be something broader, deeper, and freer than the mirror ever showed. And maybe, just maybe, we'll begin to believe we were always beautiful to begin with.